Sir Palesa, now Zimbabwe's harmonized elections process is still to be completed despite the country's electoral commission announcing the poll results nearly 2 weeks ago. Now last week the MDC Alliance leader Nelson Chamisa filed a petition at the Constitutional Court to have the results annulled. One of the respondents named on the petition is President-elect Emmerson Mnangagwa of the Zanu-PF Party. His party lodged their response to the MDC petition yesterday morning at the concourt. To talk to us about this petition, the polls in general and the way forward for Zimbabwe is Temba Mliswa, who's one of only 2 independent MPs to have been elected to the National Assembly in the July 30 polls. Temba, always a pleasure to have you on the program. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you. Just a point of correction.
Yes.
I'm the only independent.
Oh, so the other, I suppose, yes,
the other one
technically.
is NPF.
Yes, right, you're
Yes,
so right.
yes.
Okay, so your take on where Zimbabwe is at now. A petition was filed by the MDC on Friday, and the Zanu-PF Party lodged their response on Monday. What does this mean? Where are we in terms of the situation in Zimbabwe?
I think it talks about a democracy in Zimbabwe where the aggrieved party in the election will follow the stipulated rules and laws which are there, where you can appeal within 7 days and the hearing must happen within 14 days. So if you count all the days that all this process is supposed to happen, the inauguration is likely to be next week, wherever the concourt declares to be the winner. That's the final verdict, and no one can actually challenge that at the end of the day. But what is interesting is it's not about Emmerson Mnangagwa. It's about the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, which is responsible for running elections. They're the ones who must be able to articulate the figures. How come Emmerson was announced to be the President-elect? And again, there is this information again coming in from the MDC Alliance presidential candidate Nelson Chamisa on the V11 forms. People must understand what the V11 form is. Fortunately, I've been involved in 4 elections in 5 years. Hurungwe 2013, Hurungwe Independent, Norton Independent, and this election. So I'm actually one of the few people who's gone through that. The V11 form is a very simple form which you sign on agreeing what the results are. Each presidential candidate must have their own agents at every polling station who sign. Even if you don't have your presidential candidate, ZEC is responsible for ensuring that your ballot that belonged to you got to you. But you also have other people who have agents there who have also contested, be it a councillor, be it a member of parliament, who are also watching this whole process. The results are then posted outside upon you signing and agreeing. So the bone of contention is that MDC has got V11 forms. So are these V11 forms the same as the ones distributed to everyone, or they're different? And if that being the case, what did the presidential agent for Nelson Chamisa do about it at the time? Because there's a time when you must raise the red flag and say, no, we have a problem here, and as such, we are not going ahead with this. And I think ZEC then takes it up in terms of the procedure.
All right, so are you saying that the V11s that were collected at the polling stations, the figures that were tabulated there, are the same ones that were announced by ZEC? Because I think that's where the bone of contention is.
They cannot announce any other result except for that, because those V11 forms are posted outside the polling station immediately. So if there's any figure that changes along the way, if these ballot papers are being moved to a certain center, you can then argue and say the figures you're giving at the Ward Coalition Center are not the same at the polling station. And everybody has a copy of that.
Are you happy that the election was free and fair?
To me, there's never been any election more freer, more fairer than we experienced. It was credible. Let's talk about the pre-election environment vis-a-vis the post-election. We cannot allow the post-election to destabilize what happened in the pre-election. The pre-election environment was excellent. That's the reason why the opposition went to the nomination court. That's why the opposition equally got votes in the rural areas, which never happened before. There are people within Zanu-PF who voted for Nelson Chamisa. There are people in MDC who voted for Emmerson Mnangagwa. So to me, credit must be given to the new dispensation for allowing that to happen. Because if he had not campaigned in the rural areas where it's the stronghold of Zanu-PF, how could he have gotten those votes? That talks about a free, fair election.
Talking about new dispensation, today is Zimbabwe Defence Forces Day. There will be mixed emotions about the Defence Force. In November last week, they were seen as the heroes, Operation Restore Legacy. And then we saw 6 people die in the streets of Harare. And people are saying it's taking us back to the old day where the army was used as an instrument of oppression.
I think we've got to be very careful with what us leaders say leading to elections, where we clearly declare to the people that I am winning. Yet it's ZEC that announces the winner. There's also ramifications to such statements. How do people take that? Instead of us leaders saying to the people, let us wait for the outcome, when ZEC makes a decision, then we either appeal or accept it. But then there was rhetoric before the election which made people go to the streets. Cars were being burnt, properties, service stations were going to be burnt down. The police was overpowered. Just the same way the army intervened when Restore Legacy was there. It's the same way they did constitutionally. They have a right to ensure that there is national security on everyone.
But killing innocent civilians.
To me, it's an unfortunate situation. I think the president has taken note of that. That's the reason why he set up a commission of inquiry to ensure that. Because there are so many stories to this. People say that the opposition too and the people who are anti-Zimbabwe also planted people with guns amongst the crowd. So let there be a commission of inquiry. I'm very sad about the lives which were lost because it was a real, good thing for Zimbabwe to be seen to be moving forward. It's the same thing as those who are pushing for the sanctions against Zimbabwe.
Right.
Do we really need sanctions? Even Chamisa, if the court decides is the winner, how is it going to cover that? The gap of the sanctions.
We've run out of time, unfortunately, but I think just for our viewers' sake, you're ex-Zanu-PF, and critics might say, but Mliswa is actually Zanu-PF, and that's why he's talking that way. What would you say to those critics?
To me, if I beat Zanu-PF in the election, I beat the special advisor to the president. So if I wanted to be Zanu-PF, what people must understand, Zanu-PF has spoken to me about coming back. I've said no. The opposition has never spoken to me. I went in an election, I bought both Zanu-PF and the opposition. In fact, I thumped them. So to me, it talks about my capacity in the new dispensation, and people are no longer following party lines. It's about your capacity to deliver, a capacity to make sure that the people you represent them effectively. Zanu-PF, and for me, party politics is not my way. You are whipped. You are told what to do. If not, you're expelled. So I've been expelled before. I was traumatized. I don't think I want to be expelled again.
Okay. Temba Mliswa, always a pleasure talking to you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
All right.